I'm going to cover migration of MSD ChemStation data into mass under format and some data analysis. And the first thing we'll cover is how to migrate your data files. What I'm going to be using is the installed MSD ChemStation demo set of volatiles data. This is in our ENV demo folder under the VOA data subfolder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run our translator for the GCMSD. Here it is. And I'm going to browse to the folder where I have the data that I want to translate or migrate. And that again is ENV demo and VOA data. And I'm not going to select an in-place translation, which will take all the files in the VOA data folder and translate them and leave them there. I want to move them to a different location, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to browse to a location that I have pre-selected. On my D drive, I have a migration folder, and then I have one for volatiles. So I'm going to pick that, and that's where I want all my migrated data to go. So I'll do start translation, and we can watch the process go, and there we go. That's done. And if I take a look now at my migrated folder in volatiles, there are all my data files, and in each one of them there's the requisite mass under format data file ACT data folder. So those are ready now to view in mass under data analysis. And we'll also need to migrate our method. Now the quant method I'm using is, again, volalist.m. And if we take a quick look at that in the edit compounds in the MSD ChemStation, we can see that we've got our 3 internal standards and the target compounds that are associated with them, along with each individual retention time, masses, calibration curve, the whole boat, so that we don't have to transpose this manually into Mass Hunter. There is a migration tool that will allow us to create a Mass Hunter quant method, and that is the GCMSD ChemStation quant method translator. And what it wants me to do is pick up the MSD ChemStation quant database. So it's looking for qdb.mth in a certain method. So I will browse to ENV demo, volalist.m. Here is qdb.mth, and where I want this to go, again, I'll go to my migrated folder. Oops. And come on, where is it? There we go. And I'll put this in the volatiles folder right there. And I will simply call it voa.quantmeth.xml. So I will export. And there we have it. And if we take a look, all the compounds are lined up with their internal standards. And away we go. So now that we have the migrated data and method, I can go into Mass Hunter quant data analysis, and this is the basic view of Mass Hunter quant. I do not have a batch loaded, and what I'm going to want to do first off is make a new batch. So I'll say new batch. I will go take a look at my migration volatiles folder. This is where I'm going to want to put it. And I don't have anything in there now, or it would have shown me, so I would just call this one I'll call it VOA initcal. So this is just made a batch and it's converted some samples for use, and what I'll do now is I will add samples to this batch. And I'll just add the calibrators for now. So I'll take, whoops, I hit the wrong button. There we go. That's it. So we'll put all these samples in, and one thing that doesn't carry over, because it's not really identified as such in the MSD ChemStation, is the type of the sample. Now, these are all calibrators, so I'll just make it cal, and you can see as soon as I select any data file, I get the chromatogram. And I can't remember what my level names were. I can actually go back into the MSD ChemStation and take a look and see what they were, because we're going to use that method. So this is one way, and they were, okay, 20, 50, 100, 150, 200. So, and I'll show you where we can get that in Mass Hunter anyways, but I'll predefine this. This is level, this was 50, this would be 100, this would be 150, this would be 200, and this would be 20. Okay. We don't have a method assigned with this batch yet. All we have is a batch containing data files, and we can go through and you can look at each one of them if you want. We can take a look at a spectrum, for example. what have you. Okay, anyhow, let's go take a look at the method. Let's open the method from an existing file. We just migrated one. There it is, VOA quant method.xml. Let's go ahead and open that up. And I'll go to the compound setup, and here are all our compounds, and everything has already been brought over from the MSD ChemStation, including all the criteria, the masses, what are internal standards, what internal standards it's a reference to. So really all we have to do at this point in time is do an exit, apply this method to the batch, and I'm going to save the batch at this point in time. And now when I hit Analyze, there we go. And we should have brand new calibration and everything. Let me view my calibration curves. I'm sorry, wrong menu. There we go. So we can see, for example, for this compound, what the curve is. So this is just a quick overview of creating a batch and putting some calibrators in. Now, one thing we can do at this point in time is if we want to see how this relates back to the MSD ChemStation data. For example, we are using a different integrator here. When we migrate the data, I'll go into the method editor at this point, and let me add a column to show you what integrator we're using. That usually doesn't come up by default because you don't play around with that a whole lot once you get things established. And you can see that the integrator we're using here is now the Agile integrator. The migration process will do that. The Agile integrator is a parameterless integrator, and it has been shown to be pretty forgiving with baseline offsets and low relative limits, peaks, and things like that. So being that it's a different integrator, we are going to get different responses, which means our response factors may be slightly different. And although I didn't make any changes here, although we have different responses, the response factors should be pretty close to what we have in the MSD ChemStation. And I actually wrote a little utility for myself to make this easier to see, and I just called it CalRPT. That's similar to what we have for the MSD ChemStation. And this just pipes things to quickly into an Internet Explorer. And there are the average response factors and RSGs and things like that that I get from MassHunter. If I were to do the similar report in the MSD ChemStation, and that's under Calibrate List, actually I won't get it here because it's in enhanced mode. I'll type CalRPT, and if we take a look, here's our responses. And let's pick one, my favorite, methylene chloride. I get a 6.75 RSD. If we look here for methylene chloride, I'm getting a 6.772. So it's slightly different, but that's because we're using a different integrator. And that's about all I really wanted to show as far as migration goes for, in this case, for volatiles data. We could add more samples to this batch and analyze the whole batch, including samples. But this is where you start with calibration.